Hello, everyone. Uh, Welcome to our our session at the IEEE Career Fair Latin America. It is called Innovation in Action: Ideas to Enterprise. And we have a great speaker today. Her name is Susana Lau. She is the founder and CEO of ITALab, a technology company delivering agile digital solutions across Latin America and the United States. She is a Fulbright scholar with a master's degree in information technology from Carnegie Mellon University, and she combines deep technical expertise with entrepreneurship leadership. She's been recognized by Forbes among the 100 most powerful women in Central America. Susana has led dozens of technology projects, founded innovative ventures, and actively promoted entrepreneurs and women's participation in STEM across the region. I know her since a long time ago, and I can tell you she knows what she does. She knows what she talks about. So enjoy it. In this session, we will learn how to move from concept to a scalable solution, what separates ideas from viable businesses, how engineers can think like founders, and how innovation becomes measurable impact. Because real innovation is not accidental, it is built. So welcome, Susana.
Thank you, Juan, and thank you for all the organizers of this career fair for this invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here in a short 30 minutes and share a little bit about what Juan mentioned. And I hope that today you leave the session a little bit inspired because I myself am an entrepreneur. I'm really passionate about the things that we can build if we apply innovation in our day-to-day and create solutions to solve the challenges that surround us. So I will be presenting my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen in full screen. Are we good? Yes?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
perfect.
So yes, today my presentation is entitled Innovation in Action, Ideas to Enterprise. As I mentioned before, my hope today is that you leave the session a little bit inspired. I hope that if you have questions at the end, you can ask them without a problem. So Juan already introduced me. Today, more relevant to this presentation, I am representing IEEE Entrepreneurship. I am leading the regional engagement. So I'm in relationship with YPs, women in engineering, with students to promote entrepreneurship among their initiatives, to consider also entrepreneurship as a career path for these young professionals and students. So what we're going to do today, we are going, I hope that today you can think about the challenges that surround you and start thinking about how to transform them into opportunities, how to apply methodologies to identify those problems, those challenges, those pains, generate ideas and structure them into solutions, explore tools that exist and that can be in collaboration with other persons to design effective solutions. And at the end, I will have a small presentation about how we can engage in a powerful storytelling, which is pitching. And it doesn't not only apply for startup founders or entrepreneurs. We have to pitch every day. If we are in an interview with someone in a company, we need to master the skill of pitching, because at the end of the day it's to sell something. Either it's your product, your service, or even your professional experience and your path to be able to get a job in a company. So innovation, let's start with that. What it does mean to innovate. So innovation has many meanings and many other myths or misconceptions. Innovation means transformation of ideas into solutions that generate real value. The key here is value. To innovation to exist, it has to generate value for someone. It has to solve a problem or a need better than before. And innovation is not only attached or related to products. You can innovate in services, in processes, and business models. And as I mentioned before, it implies an impact, a value for someone. It can be economic and impact, it can be a social impact, environmental impact, or even a cultural impact. So that's very important. Innovation to exist, it must generate value and impact. So what is not innovation? Sometimes innovation is misunderstood or with technology. So just having an idea doesn't mean you are innovating, because ideas are just that, creativity. It is, if it's not executed, you don't get innovation. Also, if you copy something that already exists without adapting it to a new context, you are not innovation. You are not innovating. For example, you have seen that many startups that are very successful in other continents like Europe or US, they don't exist in Latin America, for example, Region 9. And when they are brought here, it's not just copying that idea. It's adapting it, it's having a new context, or tropicalizing it, that sometimes it's called. It's how you adapt that and make something better, creating value. Then you are innovating, even if you are copying something that doesn't exist in a specific context. Also, if you change something only in appearance, like color, styles, you are not innovating. You have to create a transformation in that product, service, or process. I mentioned before, innovation is not just using technology, using AI, using quantum computing. No, if it's just trendy, if you are not solving a problem, you are not innovating. The only use of technology is not innovating itself. Actually, you can innovate without the use of technology. And also making routine improvements, it's not innovating. That's continuous improvement and not innovation. So why is it so important to innovate? Because we are living in a world that is changing so fast. I don't know if you are aware of what's happening with AI, but every day that I read a news about AI, like I'm surprised of how fast everything is going on. Like I'm a developer, and you're looking at how these models like cloud and all these tools are almost doing all the work that we used to do in months, and they're doing it in days. So the world is changing very fast, and we need to be aware of that, how to generate competitive advantage and use that to solve problems. So it is important to innovate, because this is not only for startups, it applies for any type of organization. If you work for a company, if you are doing intrapreneurship, it means you are innovating within a company, within their products and their services in a company. You also need to be aware of all these transformations and how to keep that pace and innovate and change. And you have to be aware of all your market's expectations, the demands, and also that need for sustainability. ESG, you have seen that the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, all of that, it creates a pressure to professionals, to startup owners, founders, to innovate and make a change in what they're doing. So innovating also requires a method. If you are innovating without a method, a set of frameworks, you can be having a high risk of failure. You can receive resistance to change. You know that when you are trying to change something, users are like the biggest challenge, like how you can manage that change with those users. You will also have difficulty to validate your ideas if you don't have a framework to innovate. And more importantly, you are being disconnected from reality, as innovation requires you to validate with users, with end users, because they are the ones that are receiving the value, the ones that are having the challenge. So it's very important for you to have that connection with the market. So innovating without a method also make ideas die quickly or never get implemented. As I mentioned before, you can have a lot of ideas, you can have a lot of creativity, but if you don't have a framework to make that into reality, you have the risk, a high risk of failure. So the methodology is required to provide those steps to move from the problem to an idea and then to a real solution. And we are going to walk through that in this presentation. And before I continue, I want you to pause here and think about something in your daily life that you are feeling pain, that it's difficult for you, that is challenging, and that you are willing to innovate. And I want you to think about those problems, and maybe with the steps and the framework that we're going to present today, perhaps you can come up with a solution and maybe become an entrepreneur. Who knows, right? So I will invite you to think about that. Any pain do you have in your daily life? It can be very simple. It can be the solution. Sometimes, it doesn't have to be an app or a complex software solution. It can be a small change that you implement and then you test and validate, and you can see it works. So I will invite you to that through the presentation. And one of the most powerful frameworks today that are used to create or to promote innovation is design thinking. I know most of you have heard about this. This is a very powerful driver of innovation that is made up of several steps. And I want to walk through these steps. The first one is empathy. The second one is definition. The third one is ideation. The fourth one is prototyping, and the last one is testing. I'm going to go through all of this. So the first one is empathy. It's deeply understanding the people we are working or designing for. So who is the better person, as I mentioned in the question before? Like, think about a problem that matters to you, and understanding that pain, that problem. Either if you are working in a company and you are trying to solve a problem, the first step is understanding deeply what is the challenge, what is the pain that user, that customer is facing. And there are many tools to do that. That's the first step. You can start with interviews, you can start with observation, with surveys, with empathy maps, shadowing. You can observe without being involved actively in the process. And from there, understanding what are those challenges and real deep problems they are feeling. After you have identified that pain or that problem, because every innovation starts with a problem. It's not just, and that's one of the main reasons why startups fail, is that they start with a product and then they try to find the market for that product, which is not the best way to work on and create a company. Usually you have to start with the problem, and that's why the first step in the design thinking process is empathy. The second one is definition, which is what you have learned from that problem is to frame it in a clear statement. So you have to analyze it, you have to identify patterns, formulate the challenge using a clear definition, like how might we solve the problem of excessive use of plastic bottles in my school, how we might solve the problem of accumulation of garbage in my community. Like, you have to frame the thing or define the problem in a clear format that everyone understands. After you have defined that, now you are like on path to work on the ideation. So just start generating all the possible solutions without judgment, without any type of blocking, and try to select the most promising ones. Usually, ideation process is done in groups. You can be working within a company or in your startup. You start brainstorming or brainwriting. You can use frameworks like Scamper. You can use analogies. You can use dot voting. Analogy, Scamper method is a framework. The words or the letters of the word stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put another use, or eliminate, which is understanding all the possibilities that we can create to find the solution for the problem that we have previously identified. If we can substitute something, if we can combine one solution with another, if we can adapt this one, if we can modify a feature of this solution, if we can use this that is used in another industry for another goal, another objective, we can use this and use this to solve our problem. Or maybe we can eliminate these features to make it more useful to solve this problem. So Scamper is also a powerful framework to work on that ideation. There are no wrong ideas. The goal is to have the most possible solutions generated, because after that, you have to prioritize them, vote, maybe if you're working in groups, depending on the potential of that idea to solve that solution. And the fourth step is very important, is after you have the ideas and you select the potential solutions, you need to test or prototype them. So you can test them. Prototype mean converting that idea into something tangible that you can use, that you can show, that you can use to validate with your end customers. Prototypes can include paper sketches. You can have like diagrams in paper. You can have mock-ups. There are lots of tools today like Figma, out of Photoshop, storyboards that you can use. You can use even Canva. Now that there are so many tools with AI incorporated, it's much easier to create prototypes. Even Google has Canva Google, which provides you with tools with prompting to create powerful prototypes. You can also even create landing pages or websites, or even Google Forms that you can send to your potential customers to see if the idea that you are thinking will solve that problem will actually do. And all of these constitute what we call a minimum viable product, or MVP. I know that you have heard a lot about this. Don't go and create the whole product at once. Go first, create a minimum viable product and test it before you invest that amount of money to see if your idea works. So that's prototyping. And there are many tools, as I mentioned, that you can do to prototype. After the prototyping, then you go out and you go to real users, you test the prototype to get feedback and iterate over that. Maybe you need to iterate 10, 5, 20 times until you get to the point where you are able to build that solution and launch it to the market. So testing again means interviewing the users, doing usability testing, maybe satisfaction surveys. Maybe you can run campaigns. For example, there are platforms like Kickstarter and similar that are crowdfunding platforms that provide you opportunity to show your product before even you build the product and see if people are willing to pay for that product. And if you get those pre-orders, then you are in some way validating that your solution may be able to be sold in the market. And you can, after you close the campaign, then you can start using that seed funding to build the first MVPs or the first versions of the product. So those are ways to first validating what you're building is actually something that the market is going to buy. So these are, as I mentioned before, you have many tools to validate your solutions, your MVPs. You can use usability testing tools like Hotjar. Like these are more for websites where you can see how the users interact with different sections of your website or your application. You can analyze if they are looking more on specific part of the features or the solution of your website. And then you can make decisions on what to eliminate or what to add or what to adjust. Surveys, they are direct feedback you can create with Typeform, Google Forms, direct questions. Very important not just to ask your family and friends, because usually they will try to help you. You usually have to go to outsiders, to real customers, so your validation is real, right? As I mentioned, you can create landing pages. You can create a simple page explaining what you are building and measure real interest. Like you maybe running campaigns, for example, and you see people clicking on your product that may not be built yet. You can start sensing if there are people that are really interested in buying your solution. And finally, interactive prototypes. You can use Canva, as I mentioned before. You can create user flows with Canva and show how your solution, for example, if you have a mobile application that you're building and you want to see how users are reacting, how they are using your application, you can create interactive prototypes and record those interactions to understand what they are looking at, what they are not looking at, and then adjust your solution. So these are the tools for validation. And the design thinking process, as I mentioned before, also provide a framework for what we call the 5 I's of innovation, which is very related to the framework that we described before about the design thinking, which is the first one is empathy and definition, and would correspond to inspiration, like how you start that thinking process of finding a problem and understanding how many solutions can be built around that. Ideation, invention, which is the same as prototyping in the design thinking framework, iteration, which is testing, and you can validate your product all the times that you need to do. Like it's not just 1, 2, 3 times. If you need to do it 20 times, 30 times until you have the final solution that the market really needs, then that's the process. And finally, industrialization, which is not, we didn't talk about that, but that's the part when you already validated your idea and you are ready to sell it, you are ready to scale it. So the value of design thinking, it lies in the fact that it's not linear. Like as I mentioned, you don't need to do it like just one iteration. You can repeat and go back. Like you can even go back to the empathy part. Like if you realize that the problem doesn't exist, or maybe you realize that the prototype is not working, then you go back and you prototype again. So it's not linear, it's a 5-step process, but you can go back and forth depending on how you are receiving the feedback from your market. So the important thing is that you do this in this process, because once the product is built, you have to spend more money, the risk increase, and it's better to do it in this process. You can go back, adjust in an iterative way. So now I'm going to show you some examples of very common or popular companies that apply design thinking in their process. At Zappos, I don't know if you have heard about Zappos, but this was the first store that sold shoes online, and it was founded in 1999. So Nick Surman, he was a founder, and he, before building the website that it was known in that time, he first photographed the shoes in physical stores and uploaded them in a basic website. In 1999, remember that in that moment, people were not sure if shoes could be sold online, because you have to try the shoes, you have to feel, the comfort and everything, and the sizes may be different depending on the brand. So it was something risky in that moment. And what he tried to do was to validate if someone made a purchase, then he would personally go to the store, buy the shoes, and ship them. And with that, he validated that the market was ready, that there was demand for buying shoes online, and that's why he built Zappos then, and obviously he that grew that scale, and later it was acquired by Amazon for over $1 billion. So this is a success story of how a startup started validating an idea without building, a whole platform, but first doing something simple to test if the idea was going to work. The same with Airbnb, which is, I'm sure you know about this disruption in the hospitality industry. Airbnb didn't start as we know it today. The founders started by renting air mattresses in their own apartments in San Francisco to see if there was opportunity in renting your house to people that you don't know, because it's another risk. Like, who may think that you can rent your house where you sleep, where you live, to people that you don't know, right? So they took photos, they created a small website, they themselves hosted the first guest. They validated with that, the demand increased, they refined the model, and they scale it today as we know it today, with presence in more than 190 countries. So as you know, Airbnb didn't start as we know it today with this powerful platform, web platform, mobile platform. No, they started with a basic website with the founders renting their air mattresses in their own houses. So this is a way for them to prototype before going to the market. So design thinking invites us to explore, test, and learn. And I want to show you this as an example. There was a challenge in a pottery class, and the professor asked two groups different methodologies. The goal was to create the best or the most beautiful piece of art possible. And for the group A, the instruction was to create a single perfect piece. So they all have to work together to create only one perfect piece. And the group B was assigned to create as many pieces as possible. Which group do you think created the most beautiful piece of art? You may think that was group A, but in fact was group B. And this shows that the more opportunities you have to experiment, to fail, to test, the more opportunities you have to come up with the best idea, with the best solution, with the best piece of art. So this is a call to never fear experimentation, never fear redoing, never fear eliminating something that doesn't work, never fear starting again. So this is like the message of this experiment. As I mentioned, the goal is not perfection, but to validate quickly, to learn from the user. In the group A, they spend a lot of time working on this perfect piece, spending time on a single shot, on a single opportunity, while group B had many opportunities to test, to experiment, to validate. And this is why many great innovations started as very simple experiments, minimum cost, and a lot of focus on real needs. So I want to go back and ask you, what solution were you able to come up with to solve the problem you identify? We don't have that much time to participation. This is a very interesting workshop that I used to work with other young professionals and students, but I will let you to think about that and maybe apply the framework that we had today. And for the final part of my presentation, because I only have like 3 minutes, I want to talk about the pitch, which is a powerful tool to show your ideas. As I mentioned, this is not for startups. Even you have to pitch yourself when you are in a job interview. It's a very brief, clear, and persuasive presentation. And it's called a pitch elevator because it's short enough to be delivered in the time it takes for an elevator ride between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. So pitches have to be very short and concise. So what is the structure of a pitch? It usually have 5 main elements. The first one is the problem. Empathy, as I mentioned in the first step in the design thinking process. What is hurting? Second, the opportunity. Why now? Third, the solution, what you are proposing. The impact, as I mentioned, innovation to exist, it has to create value and impact, how it improves the lives of other peoples or the planet. And finally, the call to action. What do you need from the audience? You are looking to get a job, you are looking to sell your product, you are looking for an investor, you are looking for a partner, a business partner, a company partner. So that's very important that at the end of your pitch, you create the message that you want to, the action that you want to convey from the people that is here in your pitch. So very briefly, these are some suggestions for creating a powerful pitch. The first impressions matter a lot. So when you are giving a pitch, always smile, make eye contact, doing it with your interviewer, with your potential investor, your potential founder. Start with something that sparks curiosity or emotion. That's the first step, because the first impression always counts a lot. Repeat your key idea. If you are having a message that you want the audience to remember, repeat it during your presentation. Reinforce during, maybe at the beginning, in the middle, and close with that key idea. Use the power of pause. Pause gives the weight to your ideas and create that anticipation from the audience. Use them after key statements. Silence also communicates confidence. Fourth, control your voice, modulate your tone, your volume, and your pace. Raise your tone to convey enthusiasm or lower it to create connection. So it's very important that you practice. This is a lot of practice. I myself need to practice more this. And speak with your body. Use hands, eye contact, reinforce your message. If you use open gesture, you create credibility. If you use precision gesture, like closing your fingers, you are creating authority. So it's very important to understand what are the different signals that your body can give to convey the message that you want to convey. And finally, finish strong. As I mentioned before, your final sentence should resonate and stay with the audience what you are looking from them. If you are looking for investment, to get a job, to get a position in a company, to find a founder, a partner, a business, a customer, anything that you are looking for, finish your presentation with that message. So remember, a powerful pitch doesn't just inform, it has to transform the energy of the people that are listening to you. So you have to apply all of these like key tips, and there are many more tips that you can follow to create a more strong message. And sometimes uh, the audience may not even remember what you say, but they will remember how you say it. So take that in account, because that final impression always keeps in the person that are listening to you. So with this, I have exactly 9:28. So with this, I finish my presentation. I think we don't have time for questions, but IEEE Entrepreneurship has a booth. Please walk by and ask us questions, join our community, look at our website or LinkedIn accounts. We have plenty of opportunities. If you are considering to be an entrepreneur, to go to that career, to create a startup, you are welcome to ask us and let us know, yes, any question that you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Susana. This was wonderful. Yeah, as an entrepreneur, these are very, very important concepts, and you explained it in a really, really good way. I think that this was really, really awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. See you in next sessions and around the booths and everywhere. Enjoy the fair and go to the IEEE Entrepreneurship booth as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.